Oh, we are live, Evan.
We are. We're live.
I need to scoot back a little bit so I can make you know.
I get. Alright.
What's up, guys? We are here with Three Dads Do Real Estate with my good friend that I recently met, which is an extraordinary agent in out of Baltimore, and we are now going to talk to you guys about what it takes to be an agent in this day and age, and how to be a more investor friendly agent. That's kind of just, we're going to talk about the climate, and we're going to talk about what he wished he would have learned back in the day before he got started. Because, right, correct me if I'm wrong, you were originally a retail only agent.
Kind of. Yeah, that's how it started. Back in 08.
Tell us about that. You guys already know who I am.
Yeah.
This is Evan.
My name's Evan Weissman. I'm a real estate agent here in Baltimore, Maryland. And man, so I first got my license in 2008, 2009 in South Florida. To back up a little bit more, I got into real estate. I was going to school at West Virginia University. And while I was there, I saw this ad in the paper for a leasing agent. So I called, and they were like, look, we just need you to show apartments to college kids and get them to sign the application, right? Like, okay, easy enough, right? So took them, it was a 994 unit lease up. So brand new apartment complex, completely vacant. They're like, here are the keys, just fill it up for us. I'm like, okay.
That's pretty cool.
Right. I was like a 20-something-year-old kid, but like, you didn't get paid a lot, but you got like a $50 spiff for every apartment or every person that you leased up because it was per room.
They hosed you.
Yeah, they did. But like me at like 20-something years old, I'm like, dude, $50. Like they have like 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom apartments. Like,
Calculate how many bedrooms.
Right. Like, man, I see 4 dudes walking. I'm like, all right, here we go, $200, dude. First round's on me. What's good? So it was great, man. And I did that for like a year or so, and I absolutely loved it. It was great,
So that was your first taste in real estate.
That was my first taste. So I'm like showing properties, right? And I'm getting people to like do the first part of like filling out a contract, right? So I got like the first piece of being a real estate agent, right?
Okay.
So I did that, and then I was ready to like jump all the way in. It was 08. The market was hot. I was moving to South Florida with my ex-girlfriend now. Moved to South Florida, ready to go, take the real estate test. I get my license. I flip everything on Facebook. I'm a real estate agent now. My phone,
sure. Like
my
that's
phone,
the first,
right?
that's the first
Gotta
thing,
let
right?
everybody know. It's 08 or 9.
Change
Facebook was a lot different back then. I think I posted on MySpace too. So
I'll let your boy, right?
Put me in your top 8.
Yeah.
So like, and I'm looking at my phone. My phone isn't blowing up. My phone's not ringing off the hook. And I'm like, oh, what do I do now? So I started working with this List for Less brokerage. It was like $99 or like $3.99 or something. He would list your house.
Yeah.
Right. He would just put it on the MLS. And so he would get a bunch of calls. And when he got the calls, I would just go run and show these properties. Right. So I know how to do that though. I know how to run and show properties. I know how to get people to fill out a contract, right? Like I'm qualified for
You're
this.
like, I'm a real estate agent.
I can handle that. I'm a real estate agent, dude. And what attracted me was that it was 100% brokerage, right? So 100% commission.
Explain that to people that don't know.
So there's different types of brokerages. Most brokerages, there's going to be some sort of split between the broker and the agent. So there's going to be some sort of split between, you've got the full commission, your full 2.5%, 3%, whatever it is. And in theory, at this place, I would have kept it all, right? I would have just paid a little transaction fee to him, and I would have kept the whole thing. Now, what I didn't understand at that 20-something-year-old, $50 per apartment, was that 100% of zero is still zero. And I didn't sell any houses. I did like a couple rentals, right? Because there's
Out
like
of
a
this
hot
apartment
rental
complex?
No. This is in South Florida when I
okay.
got my license.
Okay.
Yeah. And so the market's not doing so hot at this time. It's 08, 09, like the bottom fell out, like,
worst time.
They're not doing ninja loans anymore. Like, so I'm trying to learn from this guy who, like, he was probably coasting back in 05 or 6 or 7.
Yeah, sure.
Like, he was probably living his best life. Now, not so much. So I went to this, like, Century 21, right? And the big thing at Century 21, there was a split there. The big thing at Century 21 is they gave you desk time or floor time, right? Which was back in the day for real estate agents. What you did is you went into the brokerage, you went into the office, and you would sit at the front desk. And anyone that called, you would answer the phone. Hey, this is Evan. Blah, blah, blah. You're looking to buy or sell a home. Most of the time, the calls were like, "Hey, listen, like there's a sign in my yard. I've got some sort of issue. Like, I'm another agent. I'm calling about this property." So nothing really amounted from that. But they gave me a website in 2008, 2009. This was a big deal, right? Like, absolutely. I got my own website. They had like a website builder website template. They gave me business cards. And I was like, this is it.
I'm bowling.
Yeah. And so again, I had the website set up, Facebook, MySpace. I'm a real estate agent. My phone was still not blowing up. It was still not ringing. And I did not understand what was going on. So I went to my broker and I was like, dude, what do I do? Like, how do I get my phone to start ringing? How do I start making money? And I'll never forget it. He came over with a phone book, like an old Yellow Pages, and he slammed it on my desk in like a not very dramatic fashion. And he was like, look, you can either go through and call from A to Z, everyone in the phone book, or you can go from Z to A. And I'm like, dude, there's got to be a better way than this to sell real estate. Like, there's got to, like, I know I don't know much. Like, I understand that you know a lot more than me. You own brokerages, you own multiple real estate outlets. There's got to be a better way, dude.
Sure.
So it didn't last too long in South Florida, right? Like, I didn't have the guidance. I was trying to do it all on my own. I wanted to squeeze every bit of juice out of, that I could. And I didn't have the right mindset at the time, was the unfortunate part.
Like, that's very important.
I didn't have that abundance mindset. I didn't have the collaborative mindset, right? Like,
and you were just trying to do, how long did that last?
So that lasted about 2 years. I don't think I ever,
wow.
I didn't renew my license. Yeah, it was a tough 2 years.
Wow, I thought you were going to say like 6 months, 8 months.
Dude,
like
2 years.
2 years of just.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, I would do little jobs, like I would like wait tables,
sure.
And I would go do whatever I could, like, do like some construction project, whatever I could to make money, because I had this dream.
Yeah.
Like, I had this dream. I'm going to be this successful real estate agent. I'm going to be a real estate investor. I'm going to do this. Right.
It's a real estate agent and then investor. So that's obviously 2 separate conversations. Right?
Yes, it is.
Most people look at it as kind of one, but then when you first start off, you're like, okay, everyone thinks like, oh, when I get into real estate, even me, when I was, 4 years ago when I started, I was like, how do I make money with real estate? And then just be an agent.
Right.
And then I was like, should I do this? Should I not? I was like looking through the course and I'm like, I never finished my course and I'm like, this is stupid. There's got to be a better way. In my mind, I was like, there's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way. Like, I don't know what it is, but I know there's something better than this.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And that's the whole thing. But when we're able to find that like collaborative, when we're able to find ways to work with other people, right? We're going to. Ivory will only climb as high or will only grow as high as the lattice it's attached to.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
So if we're
this lattice was very short,
right, well, if there was no lattice, it was me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just the ivory on the ground. Like,
you're just going sideways back into the ground.
Like, I had nothing to attach myself to grow with.
Sure.
Right, and that was the challenge.
So
I didn't see it.
When was the, I guess, clicking point from you after the 2 years?
After the painful 2 years.
After the painful 2 years, that you were like, you know what, I want to look at that investment side, because obviously the agent stuff is, I mean, you're a successful agent now, but I'm saying, like, when did that switch over? I mean, you're doing deals. I mean, the last few weeks, I saw you post a bunch of products sold.
I've been doing some stuff.
Yeah.
It's a lot different now.
So when you first started, when did that like shift happen? Was it, I guess, first obviously a little bit of mindset, and then how did that investor friendly shift happen to basically make it?
So to zoom, I'll keep this high level as I can. So I moved back to Baltimore. Life happens, right?
Sure.
I moved back to Baltimore. And I wound up getting a couple different jobs doing like property management. I went back to what I knew. It was safe. It was easy.
Sure.
Like, I know how to lease apartments. I know how to show apartments and get people to do the paperwork, right?
So back to the $50
yeah, pretty much.
Back to 22.
Right. So I'm getting older. Things are getting more expensive, but I'm back to the same, what I know. And so with that, I found this other job doing like third-party turnkey management. Like I said, like I had experience. I'm work at restaurants here and there. I would work at doing like different like construction jobs here and there. So like I understood customer service, right? I understood like systems and processes of making things happen. I understood how to read a tape measure, and I knew lefty loosey, righty tighty, right? And there were some things that came along with that.
Sure.
Like I learned some things. I learned like little stuff about electrical. I learned little things about plumbing. I learned little things about HVAC, like just enough to get me by.
Yes.
Right.
Enough to know that, hey, that's not supposed to be like that. And
That ain't
let's
right.
call professional.
No, that's above my pay grade,
Yeah.
right? So I knew that, and then I got this job working with this guy who was doing third-party fee-based management, right? So at that point in time, he was meeting with investors, right, who had properties they wanted to get rented out. They needed managed. They wanted to sell some of the properties they had, and they wanted to acquire more. Now this is the missing piece of being a real estate agent, right? So now I understand how to sell a house or list a house. I understand like the concept of like a listing appointment. I understand the concept of like meeting with investors, right? And like what they're looking at. So I start to understand a little bit more about like KPI, and I start to understand a little bit more about cap rate, and I start to understand a little bit more about like ROI and like IRR, and like these different metrics that people are using to analyze these deals, and what's important to them. So I clicked. Like numbers, for whatever reason, like those kind of things make sense to me.
I'm terrible with numbers.
It just makes sense.
I need to have it written down on a piece of paper and be like, okay, this says this, carry the one. Like I am, for being Asian, I am terrible.
I won't make the joke, dude.
Terrible with numbers. Like my SATs and everything like that it is laughable how bad with numbers I am. It's a running joke between my friends. I own up. I'm a shapes guy. And
dude,
if my friends watch this, they'll be like, "Hey, he's a shapes guy."
Dude, it's okay. Circle, yeah,
Circle,
I get it.
triangles,
Right.
squares. Put them all together. I'm good.
It's easy enough. I mean, there's usually like one side of the brain that's dominant.
Yeah.
So I'm doing that. And then
So this is like, let's fast forward. So 2 years, you moved back to Baltimore.
This is like 2011, 2013. Okay. So 08, 09. I moved back to Baltimore like 2010, 2011-ish. Muddling around a little bit. I had some things going on, as far like on the personal side. My mom and my dad both got very sick. They both had cancer, and they both passed away in like a very short window of time.
Oh wow.
My best friend, like who I grew up with, committed suicide. And I was struggling with addiction.
Those are some life hurdles.
That was a lot of shit to deal with
in a very short. I mean, it's hard enough
for like a 20-something-year-old kid that has no idea, no college degree, no idea what they're doing in life. It
hasn't had an established base of like
nothing.
Real estate. That is just kind of like, all right, this is my world has been turned upside down
completely.
So how did that click over to you're like, okay, I still have this dream, right? I'm dealing with all of these life happenings. When did that switch over to be like, okay, now I got to piece it all together from what I've learned? Because even though the little bits in here and there, those are all experiences, right? Yeah. You've met with investors, you met with sellers, you met with agents, other agents, you met with, property management. You understand, selling units or renting out units. So encompassing, you're on the fringe, but when did that, okay, you're like, I'm going to commit to this and start truly learning the investment side?
So what happened was, I was doing this, I got myself together, I got myself clean, right, in like 2014. And I met my mentor, the guy that I work with, Michael Schiff Home Team, right?
Who's graciously letting us use this, Mike.
Thank you, Michael, I appreciate you.
Yep.
And he put like this little bug in my ear. He's like, dude, you do everything that I do, right? But you're getting paid like $30,000 a year. So it's like, if you want to do something a little bit bigger and better, let me know. And I was like, dude, it's so safe and so stable now. I'm so safe in my little bubble. Like, I don't want to get out of my bubble. I like it in here.
But the medium income in the United States is like 37. So you're like
I was there. I didn't realize it was a struggle, but I was there. So my daughter was on the way, and I was like, I can't do this. Like, I looked at where I was living, I looked at what I was driving, I looked at my life.
You did a life audit.
You're right.
You look at your life and you go, what am I doing?
and I'm like, I'm about to have a beautiful little baby girl. Like I
It
can't.
changes things, doesn't
It
it?
in an instant, man.
Don't you like our title?
Dude, I do.
Three dads do real estate.
But it's so true, man. In an instant, dude. As soon as her little blue screaming body came into this world, and as soon as they laid her on my chest, because they did, you know,
Yeah.
So
Skin
they
to skin.
right.
My big old, I'm like,
Dude, I saw her. I think I saw her first thing was like, so they lay her on my chest, man, and it was just my whole world changed. It wasn't about me anymore.
Absolutely.
Right? It's about her and like how can I make her life better? Right?
It's funny how you touch on that because like the guys that I'm doing this channel with, right? We're all dads. We all learn real estate at a later point in my life where we're already established. We have kids, we have bills, we have soccer games, you know, we take them out on Christmas. Like there's things that are in life that is a non-negotiable, but then at the same time, we're trying to squeeze and relearn an entire industry, multi-billion-dollar industry that basically is like, you can skin a cat 100 different ways. You can be agent, notary, like you can be
appraiser, inspector. There's like so many different lender, title,
exactly,
like, so many different facets.
And then all we're trying to do is carve a piece for what our legacy would be for our kids, right? And so that's kind of the theory behind of our channel, how it came about. It was actually not necessarily a joke, but it was like hey, let's start a channel and do something about our conversations. We're on 3 different coasts. My 2 other guys that I do this with, one's in Texas and one's in California. Meeting times are hectic as anything. Like it's crazy.
I'm sure.
Like I'm talking to them saying, oh, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. They should be that's like 9 in the morning for them. Or, you know, it's like they're just getting.
I'm still getting my kids to school.
Exactly.
Like,
right. They're like, I can't jump on this call. Or like, hey man, we're supposed to do this. So it's like it was crazy. So shifting back to where you are right now, right? Obviously, you had some life experiences that kind of pushed you into the investment side.
Yes.
Where
did that happen?
Where would you say that obviously the Michael giving you the opportunity saying, hey, I want you to be an agent, but then you went back to your agent roots, right? Or relearned how to become, because now you have that.
Well, it started
explain that portion.
So when I started on the team, like it started, you know, with your typical buy and sell, right? So I'm looking for friends and family, like people I know, or people that I don't know, like people that click on the website, things like that, like who wants to buy a house, right? So I would run the same thing to like similarly, like run buyer leads, but there's a whole different system. There's a whole different process. Also, the brokers that were affiliated, the whole team mindset is very much of like abundance, collaboration, learning, education is stressed so much here.
You guys just had a
we
training.
Have classes multiple times a week. Like we're encouraged to take classes. Like, you know, they'll pay for trainings. You know, like they'll literally pay for me to go learn things that are going to help me better myself because they know it's going to help better them too. So what happened was I was doing the buyer stuff and I started getting listings, and Michael built his whole business on working with investors, right? So I would walk into like an investor meetup with him, the whole world would light up, everybody knew him. It was amazing, but it didn't take me long to figure out investors want deals, right? So in order for me to get these amazing new flips, because that was the hottest stuff, dude. When I'm posting these pictures on social media, people, they don't want to see the as is stuff that I'm selling. Like, they want to see the shiny new listing, like in Baltimore, or like wherever in the county. They want to see like the 3-4 like completely renovated house. They want to see those walkthrough videos. They don't want to see. I mean, you know, some of my walkthrough videos of the as is stuff are funny, but like they don't want to see that. Yeah. Right. And like, so I also learned that when you acquire the property, and then you know, either I find it or I find it for my buyer. Acquire it, so there's a transaction there's one side. Then we go back, they renovate it, they make it all nice and pretty, and then
guess who they come back to?
They come back to me to sell it.
Of course.
How do you make 2 deals out of 1? That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. In best case scenario, maybe one of my friends is interested in buying the house, right?
Of course. Or
maybe I got the house from a friend. So you can turn it into 3 or 4 sides from just one house, right?
Absolutely.
Opposite to me selling the same house over and over and over again, you know,
renting out of contract.
Right, exactly. So, and it just kind of, and the first time I did it, it clicked, and I was like,
were you scared, like the first time you were like, oh, this is my first deal, right? Everyone kind of remembers their first deal, right? Your first like agent deal in Baltimore here, where you were like, oh my god, this is a deal. Like what was that? How did that like transpire? Do you remember? And do you remember like the conditions that you were like, crap, I might have left some money on the table, or would I, how did that all transpire? Where you're like, I wish, because basically what I'm trying to get to at this, like on the later part of this conversation is like, if you could go back now, right, and look back 4.5 years, 5 years from now, or how long has it been?
It's been 6 years.
6 years. Okay, so if we can go back 6 years, in year one, year two, so let's say 7 years, right? If you were the brand new agent that like there are people applying to be agents currently in this market, right? Mm-hmm. Good luck.
God bless. I did it.
Good luck. It's doable, right? It's definitely doable. But the question is if you could give out some knowledge to your younger self and be like, this is what, as an agent, I would have redone because this was given to me. I didn't use this to the maximum. What I could have done back then is like, here are some knowledge and here's some nuggets to it.
So if you want to go the real estate agent route, here's the things that I would say.
Wait, let's go to your first, because that's I want to talk about that later, because after you finish your first deal and like how did you do well? Did you do bad? Like tell us that, and then if you could go back and say, hey, this is what I would tell my,
So my first deal was my client's deal. And I've had the advantage that I've been able to learn from experience there. So the first one, the one that comes to mind, is 1335 Herkimer. And that was a tax sale that we bought.
Who's we?
Me and the client. Okay. Well, the client bought it. I was his agent. I advised him through it. 1335 Herkimer was the first one. It's in Pigtown in Baltimore City. Really low barrier of entry. I think it was like 35,000 for this.
Just gold back then.
Yeah,
7 years ago.
I mean, it was
130,
2-bedroom, 1,000 square foot house. Right, exactly.
It's
$35,000 tax sale. First thing I would have done is I would have bought it myself. I would have scraped together every penny I could have, and I would have bought it myself because it was a steal. Looking back now,
we'll talk about it. Don't worry, because off camera we had a couple of those, and you're like,
God. If I could have only, oh my God, if there were. All right, I'll stay in track. So
I'm pulling some painful memories right now.
No, it's okay because I've learned from them.
That's exactly
the whole thing is I've learned. I'm glad to be able to share it with the couple of people listening to us right now, or
we got 65 subscribers in less than a week, so this will be rerun to.
Yeah, dude, 100%. Right.
Our goal is to get to 100 subscribers by the end of the month.
Dude, we'll crack it. It'll be no time. It'll be absolutely no time, dude. So first learning experience there was contractors. Like this guy.
That's always fun.
Yeah, he got burned. And this was one of my first ones, so I was a lot more hands-on. Like I was coming out and I was doing walkthrough, like I take the consultative approach. So I'm out doing walkthroughs with him, like design walkthroughs, design consultations, I'm just as involved in the construction process and getting this place ready as he is almost, right? And I'm out there on weekly, bi-weekly basis. And this guy, I don't know, you might have met him before. He told this story. He got burned by contractors. He was sleeping in his van on the side of the road to get to and from the project every day because he lived a couple hours away. He would go to Home Depot first thing in the morning, get all the materials, get all the supplies, meet everybody at the property, make sure that everything was done. He begged, borrowed every last couple dollars he could to make this happen. And so, went way over budget. Right, naturally, as the first one does. But we were able to recoup. We were able to sell this place. I think we sold it for $150 at the time, a little 2-bedroom house, right? Now the shells there are selling for $150, right? I mean, this person got a huge deal.
Yeah.
But I mean, this was granted 2017.
Yeah.
It was a whole different world. I mean, interest rates were still low, but the hype wasn't as much as it was
3.5,
through
4,
COVID. Yeah. So that was the first one. Learning lesson from there would definitely be like, contracts. Make sure you have a team in place. Like make sure you have a good team in place that's, going to be looking out for your best interest and really going to, be there and show up where you need them to be, when you need them to be.
How much do you think he lost, or how much did he owe over budget by having a bad contract?
I think he probably broke even. I mean, he got the place for 35 grand. We're talking about 1,000 square foot row home. Back then, you're probably,
$20 a square foot,
something like that.
20. I mean,
well, let's say
$25 a square foot.
Right. Let's say even so, like let's say $30 a square foot, or brand new.
Yeah. So I mean, you're still in it for what? 30 plus 35, 65-ish in that range.
65-ish. You sell it for 150. Back out. I don't even think we had any seller subsidies, but back out 10% off the top. We're 135. Like it's a home run deal. You got $100,000 spread, right? I think he wound up spending like 70 something, 80 something.
So he had to double basically. His original budget was 30, but he doubled because wow, that's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, still made some money.
Sure,
but not the home run deal that we
originally did. And the crazy thing is that deal is happening right now with extra zeros with this past year in 2022 to 2023. It's I'm sure a lot of people are underwater in regards to their ARVs because when it was appreciating, interest rates are high, that's great, or low, it's great because right now. What is your buying power? I saw online. It was like your buying power with every point goes down 30K.
1% increase in interest rates brings you down 10% in buying power.
Yes.
So, last year, and this is one of the interesting things that we're seeing now with renovations. Like, last year there's a comp in the neighborhood this time last year for, let's say, 500,000, right? Well, last year at this time we were at like 5% maybe ish. 5% interest rate.
No, we're in March.
Yeah, we're in March. We're probably 4 something. 4
I think it's headed because it started jumping aggressive. It started going back up.
So let's just say 5%, right? We're at I think it was 7.01 this morning is the national average for 30-year FHA. So you're talking about $500,000 house. That same buyer making that same amount of money, looking at the same house, they can only afford a $400,000 house now. So you've got the seller like, hey, my neighbor last year sold this house for $500,000, right?
And you got the 5% interest rate,
right?
Not at a 7% interest rate.
You got the same buyer over here that makes the same amount of money as the guy that bought this house. Now his highest pre-qualification is $400,000.
Yeah.
What do we do? There's a comps of support, yes.
Comps right now you can't go further than basically beginning of this year.
Well, so it's funny because one of the classes we were doing earlier was having an appraiser here, and they were saying, you can go out. Appraisers would rather go out further than, and this is just one appraiser, not all appraisers are built the same. Not everybody's going to do the same thing. Different bank overlays, different requirements. But yeah, this appraiser was saying go out further and stay tight from a time frame standpoint, right? Because the more recent, within 90 days, within 180 days, are going to be the more valid comps than something a year ago. But the seller's still thinking, and
hey, my neighbor's house is 2 blocks over.
Zillow's still showing.
It hasn't caught up yet.
Yeah. So people are looking at their estimates. They're looking at their Redfin estimates, and they're like, well, my house is $800,000.
Yeah.
So, which I'm sure you deal with too.
So now that you've gone through that and kind of experienced, that was basically your launching point, right? So in
found a deal, we flipped it with an investor, got the listing on the back end, and this one, the buyer walked in. I did an open house the first weekend. Someone walked in and she said, "I'll take it." So I found
music to my ears, right?
Didn't have an agent. So 3 sides.
Bought it. Okay.
I
sold it and you represented the buyer.
Well, I didn't represent. I can't represent both the buyer and the seller, but I represented the seller, and the buyer didn't have an agent. Yeah. So I got 3 sides. I got the buy side, I got the sell side, and then I got the buy side from when I acquired it. And I was like, dude, this is cake. this is great.
Life was that easy, right?
Yeah.
Do about 20, 30 more of those a year.
Dude, exactly.
I'm
Do that 20, 30 more times, dude. I'm on my way, man. Like, I'm good. So, and that's, really was the thought process. It's a lot easier on paper.
Yes.
Yeah. So that was that.
So now that you've gone through those type of investor friendly transactions, right? What would you say? Because talking to I want this line of agents and investors to be not blurred, but it's not one side or the other side. Ultimately, it's just about getting the deal, right?
So
How do you talk to agents that are not investor friendly and potentially get them to see the light, right? As an agent. Because when it comes from an investor, they're like, you don't have this NCAR or whatever license. Like, don't speak to me. I'm a realtor. You guys remember the episode of what's that? It's the Modern Family. He's like, oh, I'm a realtor. It's not a real estate agent. I'm a realtor. Yeah. How do you transition your conversations from dealing with investors to non-investor friendly? Because if you're representing an investor and you happen to go into a buy or listing appointment, how does that conversation change or dynamics change? Are those agents how do you make that happen?
I'm pretty authentic. I talk to pretty much everybody the same way, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was instilled to me at a young age. You treat the janitor the same way you treat the CEO,
Yep.
right? And that's just something that's worked for me through life, right? I just carry the same way with everyone.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. So when I talk to, I'll put little twists on it though. Like, when I'm talking to another realtor, I know how to speak the language, right? I know what they're looking for. I know what they want to hear, especially if I'm listing a house, I want to make sure it's getting to the closing table, right? So I know what to say to them, and I know what to set as far as my buyer's expectations as well to get them there, right? And again, going back to, you're only as tall, the ivory's only going to grow as tall as the lattice that you're attached to. So with that, I was on a call yesterday, Monday, and really successful agent from Illinois. And she was like, there's basically two different ways that you can go about generating business, right? One is you can come in the office every day and you can make cold calls. And I immediately I got triggered, to, the Vietnam music starts playing. I hear the helicopter swirling. I'm like, I'm not calling A to Z. I'm not doing it. She's like, or you can go through, and that can be a part of it, right? Because I've got my computer in front of me now. I still make cold calls, right? That's just part of the business. Yeah. I try to make warmer calls, but I still make cold calls. And then, just saying, there's networking, there's relationshiping, there's, not only with clients, but also with other agents, right? Yeah. One of my best sources of business is referrals from other agents, surprisingly, right? So, you want to establish yourself as a market expert in certain niches, and, I get business from that. And people kind of know that I'm not going to play around.
Sure. So when you first started though, where did that thought process or credibility and, that fake it till you make it type of feeling come from? Was it a little bit of mindset? Was it because you just got this first deal done, you're like, okay, I had the confidence to conquer the world? If you can now go back, I guess this is part of the conversation, says, okay, if I could go back and say, hey Evan, younger Evan, this is what you should do. These are the top 4 things that I should have done a little bit more of, double down on, because this is where your future is going to become.
So,
right? Is it networking? Is it obviously the cold calling is stressful, but I mean, it's part of what avenue or channel would you
So there's a couple different things. One, I would always say, I'd feel really old saying this now, but I would say save and invest. That is of the utmost importance. Save and invest. If I could go back, I would have bought some of the deals that I sold, right? And I would have given them the same amount of money, knowing if I knew then what I know now,
of course,
would have 100% given them the same amount of money, right? Because I knew the probability. There were so many houses in, all the houses that I've sold in Dundalk, for example,
Yeah.
for like $70,000, right? And like looking back, I'm like, man, like 150,000 right now, same house,
Yeah.
right? A couple years later,
Yep.
doubled in value,
Yep.
right? Should have
So
bought that myself.
hot zip code in Baltimore for about 4 years. So
Yeah, I should have bought it myself. I mean, same thing, you know, like probably like there's certain areas that it's like I should have just whatever. You live and you learn,
Sure.
right? Like what's the saying? Like best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. Second best time is now.
Yep.
You know, and like that's it. So definitely
So you're
start
saying
saving and investing.
Saving
Or
and
investing.
invest into an actual deal versus just selling it all.
Right.
Okay.
Try to find.
How do you balance that though? Like
Well,
when
so
you
what
first
I
started,
realized-
you were like, you know, most investors that go into wholesaling, right? They're coming from nothing. They're coming from something. Maybe they come from a little bit of money. They might have like $5, $10, maybe $1,000, or
So
you
a
know,
lot of us, I think, equate the same thing, that the only value that I have to provide is money, right? And when value isn't present, the only conversation is money. So if there's value present, money isn't even a conversation.
No.
And my mindset was so short-sighted that I didn't see that. I didn't see that there's more value than I can provide than just dollar bills.
But that's hard though.
Is it?
I mean, if you're starting brand new,
Yeah.
like
Well,
again,
I can partner. John, we can certainly partner on the deal.
of course.
And so,
But I'm saying like how, like what, like I guess I'm not asking the right question.
So-
What I'm asking is, if your now self went to your younger self, just finish this deal. These are the four, I guess these are the two mindsets I would go with, and these are the things that I would do to get you like going faster than what you've learned in the last 6 years.
nurture your relationships would be what that would lead into.
Mindset and nurture relationship.
Mindset and nurture relationships. So mindset. So in the beginning, like I was saying, I had that mindset of like doing it all on my own, being this lone soldier, and just doing it all, running the whole thing. 100% of zero is still zero, right? So being able to open myself up to like this abundant mindset that I can do more together. Like we can get further faster together than I could on my own. So having that abundant and collaborative mindset is really one of the things that once I shifted that, and I remember going on my first listing appointment here, and I had my bags packed. I had the comps ready to go. The comps were terrible. They were all over the place. I think it was like a $200,000 range for like a $100,000 house, like somewhere between $0 and $300,000.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Just
Like,
throw a dart.
We'll figure it out, right?
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. What's Zillow say? We'll do that. So,
Knock off about 10%. You know.
I know. So I'm like about to walk out the door, and then my coach, one of my coaches here, said to me like, "All right, where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm going on a listing appointment." He's like, "With who?" I'm like, "By myself. I'm gonna get this one. I'm not sharing. No." She's like, "Okay, so just take me through this real quick with you. Do you know the listing presentation?" I'm like, "I didn't even know we had a listing presentation. So how about that?" So like, okay, what are you going to say? I'm going to say sign here. Where are you going to say sign here to? I don't know. Wherever there's boxes, there's options. Okay, well, we'll figure it out together. She's like, that's going to look really professional. Okay, like what are you going to price the house at? Like, I don't know. Like I said, like somewhere between
10%,
0 and
10%
300,000. I
Zillow.
don't know. We'll figure it out. Like, I want to get this signed. Like, do you see where I'm going with this? Like here's the most important question. This is a friend of yours? I'm like, yes, this is a friend of mine. Like clearly they're going to sign it. Like, do you, as a friend to them, since we're not just taking, do you think you're going to be of the best service? And you feel that kind of hit me, and I was like, shit. It's like, I'm not going to be of service though. Like, I'm not going to, are they really going to be in the best hands with me? Like, I don't know what I'm doing. Right.
I'm just going on listing for me.
Right. It's like, why don't you take someone that's actually sold a listing before?
This happened. This
was like one of my first deals when I first got licensed. This was before
coming here.
No, this was here.
Oh, this was here.
But this was before that deal.
Before that deal, okay.
This was like one of my first listings that I ever. Well, I actually didn't wind up getting it. So, Fred was as good of a friend as I thought. But No, I took somebody with me. We did a great appointment. I think we provide a lot of value, and I learned that it's okay to take someone with you. It's okay to ask for help because that's something I never want to do.
Sure.
Right? Like
It's tough.
as a guy, as a dad, like I'm in recovery. Like I never wanted to ask for help from anyone. That's probably why it took me so long to get to where I am, is because I wanted to do it on my own. Right? So that mindset piece, man, that's so important. It's so important to have like a mindset of abundance, right? And what I mean when I say that is that looking at not being scarce, not looking at like, oh, well, I need every little bit of this coffee. I need every little bit of the 2 cents of that like listing commission. I need every bit for me. There's not enough to go around. Like you said, real estate's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? There's tens of thousands of homes sold in our market, hundreds of thousands of homes sold in our market.
Do you have a number of how many houses were sold in Baltimore?
I can pull it up. I really wanted to be that guy that.
While you're doing that, I'm going to see if there was any questions. No questions. Perfect.
All right. Excellent.
Love it.
All right. So for 2022, year over year, I'm looking at Smart Charts, which is just our way of it reporting for Bright. So in 2022, there were 269,036 homes sold in the Mid-Atlantic region, down 18.79% from the 298,000 homes sold. So here's the thing, that's Mid-Atlantic region, right? If I'm to go and look at just Greater Baltimore, right? I service a lot of areas, but let's just say just Baltimore Metro, right? Mm-hmm. Service a lot of areas, but that's like primarily where I am. So if I look at yearly for Baltimore Metro, there's 39,624 were sold last year. If I sell 0.1%, I'm having a pretty good year. If I'm selling 40 homes a year, right?
Yeah.
Average agent across the United States, just to put it into perspective, sells about 4 homes a year.
Yeah.
Right? 4 homes a year. The average sales price in 2022 is about $400,412, right?
Okay.
So
that's good amount.
Yeah, so 2.5%, 3%, let's say. You're looking at 12,000 times 4 houses. You're looking at about 48,000 a year.
See, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
This is clear evidence of me being like, okay, how do I?
So if you're selling 40 houses a year as opposed to 4, you're just throw another 0 on the back of that, right? Not doing too bad.
No, not at all.
So, and that's 0.1% of all market share in just Greater Baltimore, right? And that's just a little piece. And let's be real, if I'm servicing more than we're doing like 400 as a team per year, 300-400 as a team per year. With about like 15 agents. So if you're doing more that, like, there are agents that do like 100 homes a year, right?
Yeah.
But they're highly leveraged, which is good. We're highly leveraged here. But like, man, 100 homes a year, like on your own, dude, like you have like there's no time to be a dad. There's no time for baseball. There's no time for soccer, basketball, any of that stuff, right? So it's like for a year, like that's a good amount that you and your family can have a very happy, meaningful life, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that's
you're working towards
mindset, right? Is like, I don't need every last little bit.
No.
I
don't need the 400 houses. I need 35 to 50 houses.
And I'm living comfortably, right? Like I can make some investments, and like I'll be okay. Yeah. My kids are probably going to be okay.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the thought process.
Okay.
I
love it.
Yeah, man.
So as we wrap this up, right? you're saying that we would want to, your abundance mindset is one, right? Obviously, mindset is very important. I mean,
Yeah.
you and I know that it's what we think and do is going to make our actions that, right? And where we learn and where we take our time to focus that energy, right? Whether it's education, whether it's networking, whether it's self-care, right? And a lot of like self meetings and self like try to like understand who I am and then understanding our why is all part of being the dad, being a real estate agent, being an investor, learning different avenues. So with that being said, right, now the actionable stuff that you're doing, right? You are talking to your network, right? And you're reaching out to other agents and being truthful with them. In is that your main source of networking?
So network, I mean, there's a lot of different ways that you can network. Social media is a great way to network. Like it makes the world such a smaller place, right? Like I've been able to reach out to like I see these different like gurus and like different people on social media.
Mhm.
I'm like, wow, I'm so amazed with what they're doing,
Yep.
and like just can reach out and DM them, right? I can
Yeah.
like their stuff and comment
That's
on it.
crazy. It's
right?
crazy how you could do that because
And like that's with anyone. I mean, dude, we connect on social media.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like we
Absolutely.
have mutual friends, but like you connect on social media, and like, dude, we're able to like bridge that gap.
Yeah.
Which in normal life, we're probably might not come across each
No.
other on as much of a regular basis.
No.
And so many of the relationships that I have all stem from that, right? And there's like the consumer mindset of like I'm just scrolling and like
Sure.
watching reels and stuff like that. Which don't get me wrong, I do that. I do that
Like,
too.
everyone does that at one
right?
point
But
in
like
life, right?
I'll interact with people through
Yeah.
that, say like, man, that was an amazing video. Like that was really cool. Like I got a lot out of that. Like this is what stood out to me. And like interacting and engaging with people, like they interact and engage back,
Yeah.
And like sometimes I wouldn't expect them to.
No,
Right?
it's crazy because like the interactions that I occasionally get, I'm just like, man, there are people that watch me, and I'm thankful that they watch me, that give me encouragement, and just was like, even today, like a couple friends, right before the meeting, I was just like, hey, two of my friends were like, hey, man, good job. It's like looks like you're losing weight now. Like, I'm like, your face looks skinny. I'm like, oh, really? Oh, really?
Thank you so much.
I've been working out really hard, so it's that interaction that builds the relationships to take it to the next level, right? And credit, like even as little interactions that we've had, it's like we're still trying to figure out how we can get to the next level with each other in regards
Absolutely.
to whether it's this, whether it's a deal, we're still trying to make it work. I mean, let's see as an example, we had, I think the first or second day we met, he brought me a deal that made sense completely seller finance. It was a 4-unit, four properties in Baltimore, and basically the guy had, I think, 2 tenants filled up,
Right.
2 vacant, but he was trying to sell it for some astronomical number in that area that we were just talking about. And the numbers made sense as a seller finance, and we did everything in the book to try to make it. And I think the deal's still sitting there, right?
It hasn't gone anywhere. He hasn't sold it yet. He hasn't sold it to us yet.
Yeah. So I mean, we could still come back to it, and it was I don't remember the exact details, but it was a killer seller finance deal. I mean, the properties are ready to rent, but he just doesn't want to rent them. He wants to offload them, but they're asking for a ridiculous price, and we just can't.
They're asking for like retail prices like outside of the area, but at the same time, like we could have made it work if he would have been open to our terms, that it would have cash flowed nicely.
Yes.
But the point of that, I think, is you would never, like, as a real estate agent with a scarcity mindset, like I can never see some agents out there going to someone that specializes in off-market transactions, that specializes in subject to deals and owner financing deals, and like, hey man, how can we come together and make this work?
Dude, it's funny. I actually have a recording in my CRM. I was reaching out to an agent in Tampa, and they basically they price dropped this property. It was like 3 something, and they priced down to 305. It was a $20,000 price drop. And I was like, I didn't message her back, but I was just like, I could have bought it at 325, and you could have got your percentage, because it was like the seller didn't want anything; they just wanted out of the deal. was like,
And we run into that
I'm-
so often.
we just ran into that with
Literally 10 minutes ago. JJ.
sorry, we have a newer off camera person. I mean, we literally just underwrote a deal that she was just like, I don't think this makes sense as a sub two, but being a creative finance, being, obviously from Pace Mortgage Tree, it was just like, I could look at the deal and basically structure it and say, wait a second, if these rent rates make sense and the seller just wants out and it's just, I just got to pay the agent commission and maybe a little bit. I think my entry fee for those of you guys would be agent commission, and then maybe 15 grand, zero down, 0% interest or no equity. There's no equity in the property. And they have it potentially listed for 4 something or 325 or 425. So, and the rent rates in that area are 2,600, that would be 2,500 to $3,000. So you cash flow around 400, $500.
Right.
So, but it's a $0 into the deal because the seller is basically walking away from the property because they're moving to, where were they moving to?
I don't know.
But still,
But they were moving regardless. So
15 grand down and you're making 500 a month.
yeah,
Right? Like, no mathologist with 30 months you're paid back.
exactly.
Yeah. It's not too bad.
No.
Right?
So that's why, please stop talking to
We'll
someone.
be back.
After this, we'll talk about it, right? So it looks like we don't have any questions, and I think we kind of touched on everything that we were going to touch on. Let me make sure. I wanted to touch on, but Evan, I appreciate your. I think we're
privilege,
good,
man. Hope to be back someday.
I mean, we can do this. I just wanted to reach out to show that agents can work with investors.
Absolutely.
And that you are not a unicorn investor. You are what we consider in Pace Mortgage Group a unicorn agent because you understand both sides and are willing to get the deal done.
Absolutely.
But thank you for the insight of how you got here and what you have learned. I'm really looking forward to what we can do this year. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, dude. Looking forward to it, my man.
Cool.
Have a good one, guys.
And broadcast.